passionate about Cleveland sports.
He's going in! Touchdown!
Browns, Indians, Cavs, the Big Ten, and more.
Cleveland is a city of champions once again!
Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond.
A swing and a drive! To deep right!
Here are your hosts, Andy Billman and Jarid Watson.
Hello and welcome, Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond. He's Andy Billman, I'm Jarid Watson, and this podcast is a part of Waiting for Next Year. You can check them out at waitingfornextyear.com. Wanted to start off this podcast by first acknowledging the unexpected passing of 27-year-old pitcher for the Angels, Tyler Skaggs, 2 days off of his last outing. This is kind of breaking news at the time of recording this here on July 1st. Andy, upsetting. I'm guessing there's going to be more to come with this information as well because there's not a lot out about it right now.
Hopefully, it does. When you read like something like that, you think of Reggie Lewis, you think of all these different examples and more information to come. You just hate to hear something like that, especially when it comes obviously so sudden. Yeah,
absolutely. So our thoughts with the Angels organization and obviously with the family of Tyler Skaggs. So
sad story.
Very
really sad story. Hate to hear that kind of stuff.
Coming up on this show, we're mostly going to talk about the Cleveland Indians because, well, that's there's been a lot going on.
Cleveland Indians.
Good and bad. Everything was looking bright ahead of the Baltimore series, and then all of a sudden, after sweeping the Tigers and taking 2 out of 3 against Kansas City, they ended up getting destroyed for the first 2 in that Baltimore series. They did end up winning 1, but outscored 26-2 over the 3-game period. Very difficult to deal with. But some bright notes in there as well. Carlos Santana, of course, will be starting first baseman for the All-Star game. He's also agreed to take part in Home Run Derby. And Frankie Lindor as well as Brad Hand are going to be joining him as reserves during the All-Star weekend as well. So, Andy, I am so glad that I didn't go to Friday night's game and Saturday afternoon's game because the Indians, it was brutal. It was absolutely embarrassing. And we're talking about 2 games in a row, back to back. The first time since, 1908. That I don't remember exactly the stat, whether it was double digits or a shutout or whatever. But losses like that consecutively haven't happened in a century. That's not good.
No team has ever lost 13-0 back-to-back games.
Well, there you go.
That's all you need to know right there. The Indians had one of those typical baseball series where baseball is a lot like life sometimes. You think you got to figure it out. You're feeling good. 5 out of 6. Offense is ramping up. You go to Baltimore. Oh, my gosh. They are by far the worst team in baseball.
They're horrible.
They're horrible. Playing on a hitting park, and the Indians have been hitting. And then whammo. I really thought, though, the tone was set by Clevenger's start. And I'll start there. Clevenger had a second. I would call it a second returns. I know he had a sprained ankle. But this is the second time now we've seen him back after his long stint on the IL. And Clevenger has not played well. Now, that's not strikingly worrisome yet. But, it does raise your eyebrow when you see the Orioles bang him around because that was the same thing that happened in the Texas series as well. So, Clevenger, to me, yes, he's back, but that's all he is. He's back. He's not pitching well. He's definitely going to take some more time, and that puts more emphasis on the Bauer trade situation. If you're going to trade Trevor Bauer and you don't have Clevenger ready to go, you've got to push pause on that trade.
Well,
because Clevenger has to pitch better if you're going to make a trade like that for Trevor Bauer. Your team's going to really sink its ship.
Once again, we talk about this stuff, Andy, and I always talk about the mental and without getting into it, obviously, Clevenger may have some mental issues going on with him as well at this time. And I don't know that he gets through a lot of that stuff without Bauer around, or maybe Bauer's not the greatest influence. It depends on which side you fall on in that category, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not into Bauer doesn't have great influence, but I think Clevenger, I don't know what's going on off the field, but what I will say on the field is he's definitely having some struggles.
Right.
And again, yes, it's after an injury, and that's why it's not like you're worried. you're not worried about his career. But, those 2 starts were alarming. I mean,
Yeah.
to the point where it's like, okay, he's back, but he's not back to where he was going before the injury. But that goes back to April. The other big thing in this series was the bats. After such a strong run of offense, and after such a strong run of flexing their muscles, Jared, the Orioles series just went back to square one almost. It was like except for Mercado and Santana, everything was a real struggle. I saw Jake Bauers play a lot this weekend. I'm going to start harping on this until I see something. I am done with Jake Bauers playing right now. I think he needs to go to Columbus.
Well,
I can see a career for him, but I think he needs to take a start in Columbus. I want to see more Luplow. I just don't understand the Jake Bauers thing anymore.
And it might work out that way. Yesterday for me. So Sunday's game, I watched. I messaged you as I was at the game, but I couldn't see because I was sitting in that corner where Bauers was at when he may have rolled an ankle or something. I didn't see.
Twisted his ankle.
And going after a ball. And of course, he stayed in, and then Luplow came in, I think that next half inning. They put Luplow in because I think he had an at-bat at that point. I don't understand why. I mean, why not make that change right now?
I just don't.
It's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah, he just isn't playing well. Like, I'm sorry. I know he had the cycle, and he's had other moments, but I just have seen enough of this to know, like, I'm not ready to throw away his career. I'm ready for him to go to Columbus and work on some things and come back.
Yeah.
And honestly, it reminds me a lot of where Luplow was earlier in the year. I just want to see Jake Bauers go to Columbus, work on some things, and come back. The other thing that really I thought threw off timing, you talk about things, congratulations to Jose Ramirez. His wife had a baby, and so he's a dad for the first time. And then, he was really playing, I wouldn't say remarkably better, but he was playing better. It's some time off. You could tell, like, he's not into rhythm yet. Kipnis, for the first time in a couple of series, didn't do anything. And Jared, that's the one thing to me, like, Clevenger aside, I think he'll find his stride back whenever that is. The offense, though, that was I got to be honest, that was deflating for me. Because they had hit so hard and so well for such a long stretch over the past 2 weeks. And then to come in that series, they really, outside of Mercado and Santana, really nothing.
Well, we're going to have to see whether this was a case of A, they're coming back to earth, right? and that they were overachieving during those series, or B, they just hit a bump in the road. I mean, we can't, I hate to say this, not to make excuses. It was hot. It was hot as hell. And then they're playing through delays. And it was, I wonder, I mean, they honestly didn't even look like they wanted to be there on Friday and Saturday.
Well, and you know what? That's fine. But the Indians don't have those affordabilities as much. Now, by the way, I think they got away with it. And by the way, you said the statement that I want to allude to again, too. In baseball, this happens quite a bit, where you just have one of those series against a team that you should beat. And the next thing you know, you're hanging on for dear life to win a game. Mm-hmm. So that's fine. Now, again, here we go. They go to Kansas City. The last time we went to Kansas City, they got swept. I don't want to have, 2 out of 3, 26-2, or getting swept again in Kansas City either. So I think Kansas City, to what I'm alluding to, is the litmus test. It's probably a touch of gray, is what I was going to go to next. I think some of that hotness, they really weren't that great. The badness we saw in Baltimore, they aren't that bad. They're somewhere in the good zone, and it proves in the standings. They're 8 games behind the Twins. And they're a half game back. And actually, they're equal in the loss column to the Rangers for the second slot. So they're right there. They're fighting for these things. Even with this terrible series, it didn't really blow up. In fact, if anything, the roadmap's still there. But what I think, you hit upon, and so I'll hit upon it harder too. What it brought me back down to was not that I was flying in the clouds high, but I was feeling better before the Orioles series. But it brought me back to reality of, like, some of these things are just not going to go away as the season goes on. Lindor, Mercado, Santana, they're becoming they're all reliable. There's some other reliable things. Perez hitting the ball hard, you can rely on that.
Yep.
I think Luplow, I think Naquin, they have their moments. But, the strides that this offense found before that series, just wow, did it go away. And I do agree with you. I know that it was hot down there. But that... I'll be honest with you. They were one Brad Hand double away from losing that whole series.
It was
It was really, really, really close.
So Bobby Bradley still hasn't gotten in the rhythm. I've noticed that he's
a rookie.
He's looking tight at the plate.
He's going to be good though. I'm telling you.
I'm with you too. I'm not worried about it either. It just would be really nice to have him going now.
He's like
I want him to zone in on that ball, and I think getting that first home run off his chest will probably relax him at some point.
Yeah, I think too. He's going through the ups and downs of a rook. You can tell it, and he's a big kid. Yes. My God, is he big? But from everything I'm hearing, from what I'm watching too, it sounds like he's having a hard time right now, just adjusting to Major League Baseball pitching. And you know what, Mercado, we got kind of spoiled by him. He was off the ground. He was ready to go. Bobby, if I'm being honest, looks like a guy. It's like, you know what? He probably needs another couple stints in Columbus. That's coming, and that's okay. That's okay, because that's why I'm alluding to. I don't know if Bowers is hurt or not, but even if he isn't, I would send Bowers down, give Bradley some more at bats, but then rotate him back.
Why not?
And let Bowers come back up and let Bradley go back down. So I think that would help out all the causes.
Unless Bradley doesn't allow them that opportunity, right? I mean, it doesn't give them that choice. If Bobby can lock it in, that changes things a little bit.
It's a big week. It's a big week for Bobby Bradley.
It really is. It really is. And that win yesterday was really big. If they get swept away by the Orioles. And I got to tell you, watching Brad Hand out there, it was rough watching that ninth. Some of them strike calls at the end. Now, keep in mind, I was watching from center field. Looked like he wasn't getting calls that he should have been, too.
Joe West was all over the place towards the end, which is typical Joe West. What I would say to Brad Hand, watching baseball forever, he's definitely hit the first time his little speed bump in the reliever role. It happens to all relievers. Yeah. It happens even to great Mariano Rivera, for people who don't know. Every reliever has usually a shaky couple weeks or even a month. It's happening to Hand right now. You can tell. And it's okay. I still believe in him. By the way, he got the save. Yeah. And I will always emphasize that. He did get the save. And that's all that matters in those spots. But yeah, I mean, again, let's all be honest. Bases loaded, 2 outs, a double, that's game over. I mean, all 3 runs come in. So it was a shaky spot, but they did get the win. Again, the only thing I'll allude to is I want to see now, I've used this term so much, but I'm back there again. Now I want to see how they react in Kansas City. Because if it goes 2 out of 3 again, or they get swept, it's like, well, maybe the trade debate goes on. But I'm still in that holding pattern. The only thing that I am almost deadlocked on is I don't think the Indians should be buyers. I'm not seeing enough here where it's like they should go get a player to make a playoff run. I think at the most you hold or you trade off. No, I'm not seeing anything you should buy.
For me, I agree with that 100%, only because they still, in my mind, you're talking about bringing a guy in to a team that doesn't necessarily have their identity yet. It looks like it's forming.
It's funny you say that. You're right.
It looks like it's forming. It looked like they had that, coming out of those last couple series. But if, boy, we're really going to have to see what they do in Kansas City. We're really going to have to pay attention to that.
By the way, they have an odd week because they only play 5 times this week. They play 5 games. Weird series this week.
Well, and we talked about this too, Andy. They're 8 games back. That's right where we were hoping for. Yeah. All I said was get us to within 6 by the break, right? And they might be close to that. They could. It depends. Because the Twins are playing shaky baseball. They're playing 500 baseball right now.
Finally, by the way, it has to happen. I mean,
so they've come back down to earth.
Yeah, it's just one of those rare things because it is hot in Baltimore, and God knows you know that better than anybody.
Oh God, it's
gonna be hot as hell too in Cincinnati, and it's gonna be hot as hell in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So you're going to places that don't have a lot of humidity relief. So hopefully that was just one of those things. I know the humidity was really bad in Baltimore this weekend, so I do hear you on that. Ugh. Now, for some of the positive nuggets that I saw, the Carlos Santana train, I'm so happy for him.
Yeah.
The home run derby is cool. His first appearance is cool in the All-Star game. He definitely has earned it. He played really well again this weekend, and he was one of the few. Oscar and him were one of the few players who really played well throughout the weekend. The other things that, that have come over now going to the broader spectrum here. It was great to see Trevor Bauer have a big start. Again, somehow or another, the Royals, those pesky Royals, we only won 2 out of 3. But gosh, everything was a fight in that series against Kansas City at home. Good to see Bauer pitch well again. Looks like he's had one bad start and 3 out of 4 good. So hopefully the good there is starting to carry him back. And then, to our Lost podcast, going way backwards, Martine's now off the team. He was designated for assignment on June 22nd.
We didn't think it would take long.
I thought that was a defining moment of this season. I wish I could say I was any kind of surprise, but I wasn't. I think that was the proper move, and I'm glad they did it quickly. So I guess to everything that we just put in there in a blender, with a 3-game set, and then only a weekend series in Cincinnati, so only 5 games. Such a strange schedule. Only no Friday game this week for the Tribe. Only Saturday and Sunday. So for those of you who are looking for it on your radio and wondering if your radio signal's dead, no, or your television signal, no.
If you think about it, it's been strange too. Speaking of radio signals, because I think Tom Hamilton took the week off too.
He was in Mexico. He was in Mexico. Yeah. And ironically enough, I was texting with Tom about something else, but he was in Mexico for a wedding.
Okay.
So Hammy,
well, there were people wondering where he was and why he was gone.
I listened to all of his broadcasts. He was in Mexico. He was not. He was at a very, very hot wedding in Mexico. But he'll be back in the booth on Tuesday. I'm sure I'll have stories that I will.
I can't wait to hear the stories.
I was gonna say, I'm sure he'll have stories to break the airways with. Yes. But it was nice catching up with him briefly over text too. He's such a good guy. For people who don't know, he really is a genuinely nice man. Yes. So these last 10 games, some excitement. I thought the Royals thing was good with Bauer, like I said. Kipnis before the Orioles series was hitting the ball hard. Naquin had a fantastic catch on Friday night against the Tigers. Boy, the Indians, I'll tell you what, that's their one team this year, 8-9. Boy, the Tigers come in, they win. Those are great. Those are really helping out the Indians. It's funny. Every time we do this podcast, I still feel the same. A little better, if I'm being honest, but not a lot. Right. Still holders. I don't see any reason to start trading. But the only thing I was already there, but I'm really there now. I don't think the Indians should be trading players, though, to get players back to help now. I just don't see that.
No, because
I don't see that making sense.
Do you sit here and look at this team and go, oh, man, they're one this away. They're one that away. Right. That's just not the feeling that's there. The feeling that I have is, when are they going to gel and click? That's more my... And it's been what I've talked about since before the season started, when I started pointing out who the hell is going to step up and be the leader on this team. You like to point out that Trevor Bauer is a leader, is your ace and the leader, with that starting pitching staff. I hate that sometimes, and you know that. I've wanted to say that Francisco Lindor could be the leader in that dugout between him and Carlos Santana, and seeing Francisco get a little angry, get chippy, and point the finger a little bit at Martine during that time. Not to pick on Leonis, especially now that he's not with the team. But that was something that I think needed to happen. Like, where's the fire at? Where is it at? Kipnis is chugging along, but it's not like he's not the resounding voice of that clubhouse. I just don't see, it feels hodgepodge to me, because you're looking at different areas of the field, different areas within that lineup, and you're wondering where's the consistency, where's the pop, where are they going to continuously manufacture runs from. These are teams where usually you would see Tito pushing more on the base path. He can do that with a couple of guys. He can't do that with everybody. I just don't know, Andy. I don't know. I think they it might be this the rest of the way out, scraping by to get a wild card and.
Well, I actually think you're right. I think a big part of the season is going to be I didn't feel this way in April, but I do now. I think Corey Kluber coming back is going to play a big control if they make the playoffs.
And he's throwing the ball. He's throwing the ball right now.
He's throwing the ball, and I was going to allude to that last. I mean, I think he's going to play a big part. Zimmer's, I know his injury's taking a lot longer. It sounds like it may be August, maybe further. Sounds like Zimmer's having a lot of more of time needing to get back.
Him and Salazar. I saw another Salazar.
I know.
Update too.
I was going to mention him too. Salazar's pitching in Arizona. Well, God bless. I hope he's healthy. I'm sorry. I wouldn't bank anything on Danny Salazar. I think that's California dreaming.
Might be.
I think that is California dream.
Might be.
He hasn't pitched in 2 years. So
That arm should be
and
fresh
big league
then.
game. But he should be really fresh. I bet you there's not a better guy in those Arizona than Danny Salazar. But going back to the other two, your point about who's the leaders, I do think it is Lindor and Bauer, and I think it switches. I think there's moments where I see Lindor, and I think you can tell moments there's Bauer. I'm a big believer in Bauer. I think he can be the ace. I think he is the ace. I'll be honest with you. I think he is. And I think he's going to have an opportunity to take that over. The one other guy that should be mentioned is I heard Jensen and Al talk about this after the game, and I it was an interesting statement. They thought the most consistent pitcher all year has been Shane Bieber. And I know what they mean by that statement, and I would say they're right. But if I'm being honest, the best Indians pitcher right now is Trevor Bauer. I think Bieber is really coming on. But with Clevenger and, finally, Zach finally had a bad start in Baltimore. That was bound to happen. And, Aaron Savali, that it happens. That's just the wrong ballpark. That happens to so many rookies. And I've seen it happen so many times to Indians with rooks going in there. So that happens. Savali, that was a great start last Saturday. Not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before that against the Tigers. Yeah. So the Indians have all this good young starting pitching, and my gosh, could you see it flourishing next year? But if you're talking about this year and really making a playoff push, as the season goes on, I'm starting to really come to the guy of if you want the Indians to make the playoffs, and I do, and I'm certainly others do too, you're gonna need Kluber. I think you're gonna need Kluber to come back at some point because the Clevenger, Zach Plesac, Aaron Savali, it's cool. Clevenger needs to prove it to me first. But if you got Kluber, I don't know about Carrasco. I haven't heard anything about Carrasco at all. So I'm assuming Carrasco's season's done. I'm just being realistic. I just think at this point, if he comes back, it'd be a miracle. Yeah. So you're really talking, but if you got Bauer, you got Bieber, Kluber / Clevenger, you can make a playoff push. And I think Vail is very good about it. I think Plesac, yes, I think he's going to be good, but it's a lot of pressure on a rookie to be pitching like that in the playoffs. And I know they're watching his inning count too. So I just think, Jared, those are a lot of variables right now. If you really, and I do too, I want the Indians to make a playoff push. I actually think now Kluber coming back is going to play a really key component in that. I think they're going to need Kluber because if they're watching Plesac's innings and they don't want him to go over a certain amount, then that you're going to need Kluber at some point there to start picking up these starts.
I got to be, and I've let this sit in the back of my mind. I hate that. Usually no news is good news. In this case, it's not. At least sitting well with me. Carlos Carrasco, there has not been a peep since 4 weeks ago when he left. There hasn't been anything. It's an undisclosed blood condition. And that, as soon as I heard that, we went both sides of the spectrum. You're thinking like vitamin deficiency needs something in that realm,
yeah,
or something somewhere else, which I don't even want to speculate somewhere else because that's just wouldn't be right to do. But it definitely is concerning to not hear anything, and that's why, you just I hope he's okay.
You hope he's okay. And that's the first and foremost and the biggest thing.
Yes.
And then flipping the page to the latter half on the field, the injuries of Carrasco, Kluber, and Clevenger, it's amazing the Indians are here. That's my one final statement. I think it's amazing they're here because they have really piecemeal this whole thing. And the only thing I would say is caution to what you alluded to with Brad Hand. And I would say Whitgren too. Whitgren's had some rough, shaky outings too. Yeah. The bullpen's starting to look a little tethered. They're starting to look a little worn down. And yes, the Indians had a long streak of games, and they finally get a lot of days, as I mentioned, 2 days off this week before the All-Star break. So they get a lot of time here to rest. But, I think it's a combination of what we've been seeing through the starting pitching. I think that's now kind of taking its toll on the bullpen.
Well, we're going to have to see how much length we can get out of the starting rotation over the next week in that heat and in the humidity. Because I think that's gonna be your tell on what happens. Because you're right, the more we've got to go to that bullpen, in the fourth or fifth, as opposed to that's sixth or I'd rather, man, you got to get to the seventh, I think.
And the Indians have done that a lot lately. The Indians have done that a lot.
Yeah.
And by the way, I do want to give one more thing before we toss off, unless you got anything else. Plutko's not pitching terribly.
Right.
I do want to give him credit. Like, I know some people are hard on Plutko. I actually don't think he's pitched horribly. He's shown enough where he should deserve to hang around. I know they're moving him to the bullpen. I don't think Plutko is a wasted part. I could see him playing a major role, too, coming out and doing long relief for the Indians.
Yeah. Which would be great. Which would be great.
Oh, they need him. The other thing, too, real fast, I heard on the broadcast, Jeffrey Rodriguez is back and he's starting to throw again. That would be another huge addition.
Yep.
To the team. We forget Jeffrey's also God, the Indians have
another
so many
young.
injuries.
Listen, this Andy, you've said it a million times. Next season is going to be fucking awesome.
Now, if you want to talk to me on the offseason about trading Trevor Bauer in the offseason, I will actually listen.
Yeah.
Because if he's not going to start a long-term deal, I get that. But in season right now, I got to be honest, the more and more the season goes on, I would be very cautious about trading Trevor Bauer.
I wonder who we're going to hear more about during the offseason, Trevor or Frankie.
Both.
Yeah.
And Kluber. I think you're going to see all three.
Yeah.
But that's for a different podcast.
Yeah.
But I do think those things are coming. All right. I always like to ask at the end of the Indians. I'll ask.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still at 4% the Indians winning Central. Are you any higher? You're at 0.
I'm at 23%.
Oh my gosh, Jared's taking a 23% jump. And then and as for the wild card, I still think 35-40%. I think
I'm still at 35-40%. I think that they have a much better chance at. Look, I didn't expect them to chip away at this division, like they seem to be doing. I also didn't expect the Twins to cool off, even though it's dumb to not expect that. I mean, every time we say stuff like that, teams always come back to earth. I mean, they just do.
Oh, yeah, the Twins. You know what? Let's pick on the Twins. I like picking on the Twins. They had to come back down to earth. I mean, they had such a hot start that it had to happen. Now, the Indians need to get on a hot streak, too, because, I mean, that's where the combo happens, right?
Yeah.
Because the Indians actually won 3 out of 3. Now, that means they're red hot. Now I think it's a 6 or 7 game lead, right? So, for everything that happened, the Indians are still 8 games out. It's not bad. That's not bad. So
there's a lot of face-to-face baseball with those teams.
They are, and they still have 9 more of the Tigers. And thank God they don't play those rotten White Sox till September. They can't beat them this year. So thank God we can postpone that. The Indians do have I don't have the schedule ahead of me, Jared, but I'll have to look at it. But I know they have a very tough, difficult August. They play a lot of good teams in August, and I know they play the Yanks. I know they go actually do a New York tours. They play the Mets too, but I believe that's the same
Angels. God bless the Rangers. At least that's at home. The Twins on the road. You're talking about the Red Sox coming, the Yankees, the Mets.
Those tough games. August is tough.
The White Sox Indians, who have given them fits.
September. Those are all September games. But
that's the beginning of September. Correct.
Yeah, so hopefully by then the White Sox will lay down for us, and then we can just tromp all over them. But that's the state of the Indians. I think it's an exciting time with the All-Star game, and I'm so happy for Santana. I think it's so cool. I know he's very excited. It reminds me of how excited Jose was when he got his first All-Star selection. It reminds me of the same thing. I'm very happy for
I'll
Santana.
be home during I'm leaving to head back to Ohio on Wednesday, Andy. I'll let you know. I might end up making a trip up to Cleveland because I know my wife's bugging to go up there. I'm like, honey, because she wants to go up there house hunting. I said, honey, you're going to go up there right now. I said, it's All-Star Week. You know how nuts it's going to be? It's going to be nuts.
It will be.
She's excited.
Nuts.
Oh, it's going to be nuts? Well, then, we definitely have to go. I said, okay, we're not going to look for houses. We're going to go and party. That's what we're going to do.
Well...
And you'll find me on 4th Street next week. That's where I'll be. I'll be at Mabel's.
Well, we'll have to give a full report of the All-Star game once we get back. But speaking of craziness, let's talk a little Cavs and NBA.
Cleveland Cavaliers.
So the Cavs, to finish up from our last podcast, the Cavs are the one team that is not having free agency because, as we all know, they have no cap room, and they're really hovering over the luxury tax, so they're not going to do anything. I think let's start off with actually the free agency then, because that's the big topic. J.R. Smith, that deadline's been pushed back to August. I am not an NBA analyst, as most of you know. I believe Jared's not either. I do not understand how the Cavs still think that they can trade his contract away to get things back. It doesn't make sense to me. God bless him. I hope it does. I still think the road of reality is they're going to have to cut him. We'll have to see as time moves on. And then the other one is Kevin Love. There was a bunch of rumors about Portland. Those have seemed to calm down, but those were just rumors. I didn't see anything really significant meat or weight. Jared, outside that, I've seen really nothing. I know Nwaba didn't get his option picked up, so we'll have to see if he comes back. But Jared, really the bigger things was the draft, where they got Dylan Windler, the guy out of Belmont, who I saw play. He's a very good shooter. What a surprise. Again, beeline shooting, not a surprise. And then to the guy that got a lot of reaction socially, they got Porter Jr. out of USC. And I saw him play, and he did not stand out to me. I know he's a raw talent. I know Porter Jr. at one point before the college basketball season was looked as a player who might be in the lottery. He fell off, just didn't play as well for the Trojans. But a lot of people are very high on him, and obviously it's a good risk when you take him at the end of the first round. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. I thought the Cavs made the right move there. If you really think he's that good.
See, that's it. You know what that is, Andy? That's high ceiling. That's what that is.
Well, that is, by the way.
It's high ceiling.
Yeah, it is. Well, yeah, right. Well,
I'm just saying.
No, I mean, it is a high ceiling. Ugh, that term drives me nuts. But, yeah, it is a high ceiling. I don't want to say
a lot
about
of payoff
Porter.
there. Really high ceiling.
Well, low risk. How about that? Low risk, high ceiling.
Big reward.
I do think. Yeah. Well, I am, as you can probably tell from my comments, I didn't see Porter Jr. play a lot. He played on the West Coast. The one or two times I saw him play, he did not stand out to me. I know he's tall. I know he's athletic. I know he's got a lot of gifts. Hopefully the Cavs can get something out of that and make him into an NBA player. But I hold doubt with that. I do think Windler's a perfect fit for Beeline.
Well, Andy, I mean, that's the point is there's everything seems to be happening around, the Cavs are in their own little world right now. The Cavs,
they really are.
That's
a good way of putting it.
The Cavs are in their own little world. They're in their own little rebuild. They're not getting a lot of attention. They're doing it in a way where they're trying to match players to that they can grow and develop around a coach who will grow and develop them. We all understand that. They're not going to make huge moves. You might hear something about Kevin Love, but and the moving him or whatever. But none of this is going to be blockbuster. This is going to be a slow grind over the next 3-4 years. And everything is going to happen around the Cavs. We've seen it. The NBA is if you'd asked me a year ago, Andy, like, holy shit, like you're talking about moves with key players across the league. It's changing the entire dynamic of the league. And you're wondering how all that's going to play out. Is the power shifting back to the East? Is there's so much to talk about, and the Cavs are just going to grind away and chip away on their own with developing players and doing it the way they're doing it. I'm okay with that for now. We'll see what happens. But if you'd have told me that you got guys going to Brooklyn and you got the Knicks are still, at least we're not the Knicks, right, Andy? I mean, we could always say that too. I gotta be honest with you,
the Knicks is it's so funny we are the same age. When I was growing up, the city of New York, these teams looked like such, great running organizations, well-oiled machines. Yeah. And to see how the Knicks have just had looked, you can rate different off seasons, and sometimes they really get overrated or fluctuated. In the Knicks case, it's not.
They had to make a statement. That's how bad it was. They had to make a statement.
The Knicks are fucked. Okay, that's a rotten.
You got Stephen A. crying in a corner.
Well, I didn't see that, but if you're a Knicks fan, it's bad. And then to double down on New York, strangeness, the '69 Mets honored their team over the weekend, and they put out people who had passed. Two of the people they had put on the scoreboard, they said had died, had not died.
Oh my god!
And they were still alive.
Are you
and the Mets had to go back. Mets had to go back. Like, oh my gosh, we are egg on our face. It's been a rough run outside the Yankees for that city, because that when I heard that, like, I'll tell you, The Mets, the Knicks, disaster. I'll get it back to the Knicks. They put all their chips in free agency, and to come away with nothing is debilitating. The Nets thing, boy, I'll tell you. You're not getting Durant for a full year, and Durant and Irving, DeAndre Jordan, I think he's been overrated for a while. I think he's a good player. He's not a great player.
Right.
But okay, so you get DeAndre Jordan. Is really Durant and Kyrie Irving going to play that well together? And then, of course, what really caught my eye.
No way that you're talking about two guys with the most personally, like the most self-inflicted drama in the league on both. And
very different people.
Yes,
very different people. Durant and Kyrie are very different individuals. I think that's a toxic relationship, but that's just me. I don't think it's going to work. And then you add into this whole, so you get all that done, and then the Celtics signed Kemba Walker. Who would ever thought that? Boy, the Celtics are a weird team. And then the best player in the market is still in the market. It's Kawhi Leonard. He hasn't signed anywhere yet. And it sounds like it's going to come down to the Clippers, Lakers, or the Raptors. And you can just, by the way.
Well, and I didn't see this. Did Jimmy Butler end up going to Miami? That was
Heat.
Floating around. Oh, maybe that's what I said.
Heat. And I would actually take that, the Sixers. I know some Sixers fans are probably really upset. I thought Jimmy Butler at times is also a hindrance. I know he played really well in the playoffs, but I don't know. Jimmy Butler's tough. He definitely seems to be. I'm not surprised he did the Miami Heat thing. Learning after learning about Jimmy Butler, that makes total sense. He is definitely into his world, and he wanted to be down in Miami, so he took that. Again, that's another thing. It's like, I don't think it's a bad move, but I don't think the Heat are that much. I don't know.
No.
The only teams to me, again, that stood out, obviously the Nets do, but, to what Jared's alluding to, you could see a big power shift to the East. And if Kawhi Leonard stays in Toronto, holy cow, the East is better than the West. For the first time.
He very well might stay.
He's a tough man to read. There are a lot of rumors about him going to the Lakers, and that'll be interesting that word out.
Well, how is that going to work out?
3 guys and a bunch of, Kyle Kuzma and a bunch of, I need a roster.
JR will be there as soon as he gets cut.
He will.
He'll be on the first flight.
No, he will. He will.
I know.
Again, Lance Stevenson, all those guys, roll them out.
Birdman's going to be back in action. He's coming off that Big 3 tournament or whatever it is.
Yeah. And by the way, with the Blazers getting Whiteside from the Heat, you got to figure, exactly. You got to figure, is anybody watching those 3-on-3 things?
I don't know. I think I would if I didn't. I thought, didn't they have the And One mixtape before? I mean, that was the one before. That was fun.
I don't know.
That used to be fun.
But anyways, my final opinion about all this NBA stuff is the Cavs are at the right time for rebuilding the team the way they are.
Yeah.
Because I thought
at least that hasn't changed.
Yeah, well, look, the free agency market is in flux. All these teams are really, it does make the NBA more appealing because you really have to sit and watch, unless Kawhi goes to the Lakers. If Kawhi goes to the Lakers, I just know in my gut they'll win it all. I don't have any proof. I don't have any, I just know
okay
my
with
gut.
That, though. Again, I don't foresee that being something that's any long. Listen, I can deal with a couple years of that. I could. I'd watch it. It'd be kind of weird, but I'd watch it.
Those are 3 years of non-competitiveness for me watching games. If I'm being honest, Jared. I just don't get into these games where it's like, I know the Lakers will win, so it doesn't matter. And that's what it would feel like to me. The Warriors, for the first time, will not have that mantra, clearly. Because Klay Thompson did sign, but he's not going to be healthy again. So, the NBA is appealing. And my son, Cameron, is big into the NBA right now. Huge. And that's the thing that I've noticed from afar. These moves are not just making waves. They are making real news. So
yeah.
It's interesting to see. Kawhi Leonard's the last big chip, but everything else has kind of played itself out. Again, I think with Whiteside going to the Blazers, I think that kind of takes any kind of rumor mill out of what Kevin Love, I would assume.
Right.
So I think, as for a cast perspective, it's hard not to get excited about the draft. I like Garland a lot. Garland will not be playing in Summer League for people who do get into that. My son being one of them. They're going to hold back because he's still coming back from injury. So it doesn't look like they'll have him. It sounds like, though, Porter Jr. will be there along with Windler. So those two guys will be running around playing along with some bunch of other players the Cavs picked up and some second-year guys. So that's really the NBA in a nutshell, in a quick 10 minutes.
Yeah, that wraps that up. What I was going to say is, Andy, it looks like we finally have the week that you had been hoping for. All is quiet in Cleveland Browns land, except for one pesky little rumor that poked its head out today regarding Kareem Hunt, but there doesn't seem to be any. There's nothing to go with it. There was a quick rumor that Lord knows where it started, that Kareem Hunt had gotten in trouble and gotten in another bar fight in Cleveland. But according to, who was it? Tom Withers, Andy? AP. Yeah. There was nothing. There's no arrest report from the city of Cleveland. There's nothing. So hopefully all of this is just a bunch of typical social media bullshit. That's what I'm hoping it is. Fake news, as we call it today now. Fake news. Well, let's hope it's fake news.
What I would say to everyone is I'm glad Tom Withers did what he did. And I think everybody should just remember social media, in a way, is a whole big chat room, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And sometimes these things can really get overblown. And what could be perceived as a fight to someone could be perceived as something else to something else. And look, until there's video, or if there probably is, maybe there is no video, and it does. By the way, I don't know, but I think I'll just leave it there. And it's nothing. It's nothing until it's something, and that's it. And I think way too many Browns fans I've ever seen react to this. I'm like, but nothing happened. If nothing happened, then everything's fine.
Right.
Now, if something happened, we'll talk about it. Until then, nothing. No, there's nothing really to report there. And to be honest with you, even that little wave was a pretty quiet blip. Not a lot of pickup.
Well, that was a quick one. Shoot us an email, andyandjared@gmail.com, andyandjared@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter. Give us a follow at CLE and Beyond, at CLE and Beyond. On Facebook, facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond, facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond. As always, we are a part of Waiting for Next Year. Read original Cleveland sports content right there, written by Cleveland sports fans for Cleveland sports fans. waitingfornextyear.com. Check them out. Andy, anything last to add?
I've been very much into the Women's World Cup. Thought that was a great win against France. Megan Rapinoe is really putting herself in that stratosphere. It was Mia Hamm, and then it was Abby Wambach, and now what Rapinoe is doing is just, that was big time stuff. What she did in that game, that the kick with 5 minutes into the game, I think it was, that was a great play, and then the breakaway goal. Megan Rapinoe is really becoming that star. She has taken the spotlight and run with it, and I'm happy for her.
On and off the field, like it or not, and I love every minute of it, brother.
I do too.
I really do. She's a badass.
I think it's great. I think she's a big badass too. I love it. But I've been really into the World Cup. They play England next, and then I think they play them actually. We're doing this podcast on Monday the 1st, and they play then. So by the time we get back, we should know the results of that. I'm very much into that. You're starting to hear little things about college football. I'm going to prepare over the break to start doing more of that, because we're going to I want to do a bunch of college football before we get into the Browns, because I know once we get in the Browns, it's see you later.
Yeah, once we get into the Browns, we're not going to give a shit about anything else. I know it. That's how this year's going to be.
So SEC, Big Ten, all those media days happen before training camp starts.
Yep.
So we'll do a bunch of previews looking into that stuff. There's already been some scuttlebutt going around. So we'll take the month of that. We're taking this next week basically off, and then we come back the week of the 8th at some point. I think the other thing to really watch and observe is kind of what Jared's alluding to with what the rumors were with Hunt. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple more of these stories happen. Just remember, for people out there, again, it's just a chat room. It's just speculation. Yes, maybe something happened. We don't know, but don't get too hung up on these stories. I saw too many Browns fans today on Twitter get really down, and the same thing. Don't get really up either. Like it's just chat room stuff.
Just be. Just
live
in the moment.
Like, yeah, I think way too many people getting way too much hooked on this stuff. So I'm interested to see how this next week plays out. And then, I guess the last thing again, the Indians, Kansas City, Cincy, then they come back from the break. All-Star game in Cleveland's going to be cool. We'll do a whole thing on that. I'm really interested to see if the Indians can pick up where those bats were before they went to Baltimore. Because I thought I saw 2 good weeks of baseball from hitting. And then, like the humidity, it just got stuck in the air in Baltimore. I'm hoping it's just a Baltimore thing. I'm interested to see how they play in Kansas City.
Bobby Bradley, get your first home run, brother. Get your first home run. Get it off your chest, and let's continue to keep the bats rolling, please.
Well, yeah, I got one more for you. What is your status on Clevenger? 3 or 4 more starts, he continues this, and you're worried, or I just think he'll be okay at some point.
I'll tell you right now, 2 more starts like this, and I'm really worried. 2.
He got shelled hard on Friday.
2
hard.
Yep.
I mean,
not a good sign. Not a good sign by a team who does. It's just it's unacceptable. It really is.
Yeah. He needs to pitch well.
Well, so everyone, we're going to take a little bit of a break. You guys enjoy the 4th of July. Enjoy the holiday. Enjoy the All-Star break if you're up in Cleveland. Enjoy that. Soak it in. Because obviously it only happens once every 22 years rather. I'm doing math completely wrong in my head. 22 years, nearly every quarter century. So enjoy it.
By the way, the Indians have been lucky. To have 2 All-Star games back to back like that's pretty cool. Some cities still struggle to get 1 in 30, 40 years. The Indians have had 2. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be real about it. The city of Cleveland is starting to get the love that it deserves, and finally the football team that it deserves, hopefully. So we'll see. On paper, whoop-de-hell.
I'll say this, in late July is going to explode, I think. I really think it's going to explode.
I'm ready for it. He's Andy Billman. I'm Jared Watson. Andy and Jared, Cleveland and beyond. Happy 4th of July, folks. Take care.